Artificial intelligence is reshaping the world faster than most of us can process. Algorithms write, predict, translate, and even design. And machines are no longer just helping us work, they're starting to think with us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dayalani. Now, what is next great frontier of progress? Many believe technological, but some believe that our minds will be the key differentiator. Indeed, how we protect, develop, and value human thinking will be vital to progress in this era of accelerated change. Let's welcome Amit Goyal, Managing Director, South Asia, Project Management Institute, to talk about the human edge in the age of AI and how we can prepare a talent for a world which is full of intelligent machines. Hi, Amit. A very warm welcome to our podcast today.
Thank you, Priya. Lovely to be here.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Amit. And I think the kind of discussion we are going to have today is one of the most debated conversations in terms of AI and how probably we can enhance human skills while still having intelligent algorithms and machines beside us. And I think you're going to give us some interesting insights around this. So
Hmm.
let's get started. And we would first like to know more about Project Management Institute, its specialization. And alongside that, a little bit about you, Amit, a brief introduction about yourself, your journey till date, and what's your current role at PMI today.
Sure. Thank you, Priya. And once again, I'm pretty excited to be here. So I'll start with my own introduction. I'm Amit Goyal, Managing Director for PMI South Asia, as you just introduced. I have been with PMI for little over 2 years now. And prior to this, I used to head the entire Asia Pacific region for Harvard and MIT's joint venture called edX for almost a decade. And in my previous roles, I have headed education solutions for companies like Samsung, wherein we were instrumental in launching Byju's Tab and many other tab learning projects. And my stint with EdTech actually started with Akash tablet project, which was dubbed as the cheapest tablet PC of the world, about 1.5 decade ago. That actually revolutionized the way, we learn digitally today. And moving to PMI, Project Management Institute. So it is a non-profit founded in 1969 in US, present in every country on the planet today, and it is the world's leading authority in project management. And our purpose is very simple but powerful, which is to maximize project success that elevates our world. We work with professionals, organizations, universities, communities to build capabilities that help people deliver better outcomes, either that is infrastructure, technology, healthcare, sustainability, or new AI-led transformation. In my role with PMI for South Asia, which is a region that is young, ambitious, digitally curious, and full of project talent. And my role is to help build a strong project economy in the region by enabling professionals and organizations to become more future ready, more execution focused, and more outcome driven. And PMI is, best known as the provider of world's leading PMP certification, which is being taken by lakhs of project professionals around the world, and a series of professional certifications.
Thank you for that a great overview, Amit. And we're really glad to understand the journey behind the organization and the a vision that drives its growth. Learning about your role and your journey, and as well as the overview of company has helped us understand the strategy and the innovation that's shaping the overall growth of the company.
Hmm.
Great. With that being said, Amit, as AI, rapidly advances, I think the boundary between machine intelligence and human consciousness is growing thinner. Now, will
Correct.
AI ever achieve a true self-awareness, or is it just limited to complex pattern recognition? How do emotions, intuition, and human experience create a gap that machines can't cross? So all of these questions, keep bumping up, and leaders have their
Hmm.
different views and perspectives for this. So I want to ask, as AI becomes increasingly capable, why do you
Mhm.
believe the conversation should focus just as much on people as it does on technology?
Right, that's a great question. And so And I think the answer here is pretty simple, Priya. Technology can create unlimited possibilities, but it is the people behind those technologies who create real outcomes. For example, AI can generate a report, it can summarize data, it can write code, or even create a project plan. But it does not really understand the organization politics, the human fears, the customer emotions, the ethics, the trust, and sometimes the messy reality which is there in execution. And, being a tech guy for almost 2 decades, what we have seen is in every major transformation, technology is usually the easiest part, and the hardest part is adoption. It is really getting people to trust the change, use the change, and sustain the change. And I think that is where the human leadership it becomes very critical. So, and we have been increasingly asking ourselves is will AI replace people? And I've been hearing this for the last 10, 15 years now, actually. And the better question today is how do we prepare people to work with AI and deliver better outcomes? So I think to summarize is AI can be the engine, but humans still need to be the driver, navigator, and the conscience behind it.
A very crisp perspective, I would say, Amit. And we often get caught discussing what AI can do, talking in terms of speed or accuracy and, some critical breakthroughs. But I agree with you that at the heart of every tech revolution are people, the ones building these systems, the ones using them, and the ones whose life and work are being transformed by them. And I think the real measure of AI success won't be how intelligent it becomes in the coming years, but how responsibly we develop it, how inclusively we deploy it, and how effectively we empower people to work alongside us. And I think, after all, technology is only as impactful as the value it creates
Correct.
for humanity.
Hmm.
Great. And again, we have been seeing machines take on tasks that were once thought to be exclusively human. So
Yeah.
again, this has sparked an important conversation across industries, which is
Correct.
like, I mean, while organizations are focused on leveraging AI to improve efficiency and
Hmm.
productivity, many
Hmm.
leaders are also asking a deeper question.
Hmm.
What remains uniquely human in a world where intelligent machines can replicate an increasingly
Hmm.
number of cognitive functions?
Hmm.
So, what does human edge mean in an AI era, or where machines can perform any cognitive task which was once considered
Hmm.
uniquely human?
Hmm. Right. So I would reflect back on my experience, which goes to, let's say, I think the year 2012, when internet was still not accessible. It was only available to the rich few. Internet speed was very slow, processing capabilities were very slow, penetration was very, very low, and there was a huge divide. So at that time, we saw a report wherein they say people who are in metro cities, their scores are better than people who are in rural cities. And the farther you move away from metro cities, the cumulative marks of the students drop. So this led to the requirement of a digital divide, technology which can, really bring a level playing field to everyone. And at that time, the Indian government launched Akash tablet. Launching it, making it affordable, giving it via government subsidy was the easiest part. But when I used to go to schools, colleges, universities, I often used to come across teachers. And I think it was the teachers who were very resistive to change. And I think their insecurities were, will this machine going to replace us? And my answer used to be very simple that if a teacher feels that if a machine can replace him or her, they should be. And this brings me back to your original question is the human edge. So I think the human edge will always, preside over technology. It is our very ability to bring judgment, empathy, context, creativity, and reasonability into decision making. While AI can process information at extraordinary speed, but it does not really carry accountability, right? You may ask as many questions as you want from ChatGPT or any other agentic AI, but it's not going to look at you in the eye. It does not motivate a team through uncertainty. It can give you insights, it can give you quick outputs, but it does not negotiate with stakeholders who have competing interests. And I think the human edge is not about competing with AI on speed. We will obviously lose that race. The human edge is about asking better questions, making better decisions, which is very important, and bringing people together around a shared purpose. So, to summarize, if the task is repetitive, AI will probably do it better. We can't match it. But if the situation is complicated, which is often the case whenever we are working, emotional, political, or ambiguous, then congratulations. Humans are still very much employed.
A very wonderful response, Amit. And it's interesting because for years we have measured intelligence by how quickly we can process information or solve problems. And with AI coming into picture and, doing exactly that, I think even faster or even match us at a larger scale, it compels us to rethink what truly differentiates human potential. But
Right.
I think, perhaps the future won't belong to those who can merely just perform cognitive tasks the fastest, but to those who can ask better questions, make ethical judgments, build meaningful relationships, and imagine possibilities that don't yet exist. And for that, of course, we need humans.
So true. Absolutely aligned.
Yeah, of course, when we talk about AI, I think now it's no longer in the headlines that, AI is going to take over jobs, because I think a lot of us already know that is not true. But somehow I think people or leaders or organizations are witnessing a certain level of unemployment on the rise. So there is
Hmm.
growing anxiety among workers about their job security or the relevance of their current skills. While AI may be viewed as a relentless force, I also believe that it presents an incredible opportunity for personal and professional growth. Those
Hmm.
who understand and harness its potential stand to gain significantly in an AI-driven economy. And
Hmm.
I think that's why workers and leaders must also adapt together so they and the companies also stay competitive. So, what skills you think, Amit, individuals should prioritize developing to remain relevant and demanding in an AI-driven economy?
Well, learning is hard, Priya. And, when we were students, at that time, we used to think this is a most difficult task that one is assigned to do. And today, when we're talking about this era of AI and this era of, the skill set which are required for people to remain relevant, sometimes people create a big mess out of it. They think of it as, too big a thing, too extreme a step to be taking, specifically when they are at a certain age or profile within their career. So if I talk about skills, then, I will rather bring this down into a couple of categories. I think today the first and foremost is the basic fundamentals of AI literacy. And I have been pitching this for the last 7, 8 years actually on one of the platform. So Harvard and MIT have actually launched AI for everyone and they launched this course, I think about 7 years ago. And today it seems more relevant than ever. So we need very basic AI literacy. One does not need to be a data scientist, but understand how AI works, where it helps, and where it can go wrong. Second is the project management capability. Ideas, tools, strategies, they need execution. Professionals who can manage scope, risk, stakeholders, timelines, and outcomes will always remain highly valuable. And any organization runs on micro or macro projects. And third is communication. In a really intensive AI heavy world, the ability to simplify complexity will become a superpower. Critical thinking always remains in demand. AI can always give you the answer, but as you mentioned, Priya, it is all about asking whether it is the right answer or asking the right question. And fifth and foremost is the adaptability or the lifelong learning. The skills are shrinking. The most valuable professionals will be those who can actually learn, unlearn, and relearn continuously, because the skills and technology and the whole world around us is changing at such a rapid pace that maybe if I learned some Excel tricks 5 years ago, they are not relevant anymore. If I'm simply asking basic questions from ChatGPT, they will not make me remain relevant anymore. So I'll have to constantly learn, unlearn, and relearn. So, in a nutshell, the future ready professionals, it will not be someone who knows everything. It will be someone who can actually learn fast. They can collaborate well, they can use AI smartly and deliver outcomes.
Definitely, I agree with you, Amit. And of course, with the misconception that AI is here to replace everyone, it's creating a new definition of what it means to be skilled. And as you rightly pointed out, technical knowledge alone is no longer enough. The ability to learn continuously, think critically, solve complex problems, communicate effectively, I think those will become the qualities that set professionals
Hmm.
apart. And
Hmm.
it's that the pace of change, it has never been faster. And I think the skills that are relevant today may also evolve significantly over the next few years. So I think
Hmm.
adaptability is one of the most
Hmm.
important career assets anyone can develop.
Hmm. True.
Right. So of course, when we are talking about individuals and organizations that they should unlearn and relearn and reskill, I think companies and leadership also play an important role here. I was just reading across this study, and they said that 78% of organizations now use
Hmm.
AI in at least one business function, which is
Correct.
which is up from 55% a year earlier. So,
Right.
of course, this rapid implementation is changing the workforce dynamics as well. While businesses are, jumping on the bandwagon to adopt AI tools, they are
Hmm.
slower to adapt their workforce strategies. I think
Right.
most organizations haven't fully acknowledged this shift, because
Hmm.
job descriptions remain outdated or compensation is tied to tasks that no longer reflect current workflows. So
Hmm.
this disconnect between tech adoption and talent strategy is creating a
Yeah.
competitive gap. So how should companies rethink about talent development and workforce readiness in an AI era?
So this is, see, organization learning and development is something that I've done extensively for the last 12 years. And whenever someone is, whenever a company is trying to make their employees upskill themselves, there is always the dynamics of push versus pull. So let's say a company who is asking their sales leader to start using AI in their daily lives. The sales leader may feel that, I'm the chief sales officer, I have been with the company for 15 years. Now suddenly there is a new guy in L&D who's coming up and asking me to take these courses, and I just don't have the interest. I really don't see the value. So I think that is where many of the companies are struggling today, wherein people are not inherently asking for learning and development opportunities. They're still, taking this as one tick in the box which is required at the time of annual ratings. But what we have seen is this is significantly changing over the last couple of years. So, and I think the companies have realized that they need to move from training as an annual activity to learning as a business strategy, because that is their key edge. And the pace of change is way too fast for one-time training programs. And organizations, they have to do constant upskilling, project-based learning, let's say AI adoption training, and leadership development at every level. And most importantly, companies should not only train people on tools, they should train them on outcomes. How do you use AI to improve customer experience? Many companies can give access to agentic AI tools to their workforce, but how do those access to the tools really relate into improving customer experience, into reduction of risk, and to improve productive responsibility? How do you measure the value? And I think that is where, the real outcome orientation lies. So what we feel is workforce readiness. It is not just about knowing the technology. It is about knowing how to apply the technology in real business environment. And one thing that I always mention to my corporate learning and development leaders is the companies that win with AI will not be the one that buy the most tools. They will be the ones that build the most capable people. So hence the focus on constant learning and development is very, very critical.
Right, I agree with you, Amit, completely. And it's very important that alongside the AI development, it's important how you're developing your workforce as well. And,
Right.
again, this transformation isn't solely the responsibility of employees.
Mm-hmm.
Business leaders play a very important role in creating a learning first culture or
Mm.
providing access to the right tools and ensuring that AI adoption is inclusive, ethical, and aligned with the long-term business goals. And alongside that, like you mentioned, continuous learning and cultivating a culture of adaptability and changing a
Mm-hmm.
mindset that's open to change. It's also very
Yeah.
important. And with that set in place, then, companies can invest in the reskilling and upskilling initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
can then help them to build the leaders of tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right. With that being said, I also feel, Amit, that alongside organizations, I think education systems also play a very important role. Um,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, AI readiness is not just about using new tools or teaching employees or students to use new tools. It's about teaching them how systems work, how problems
Mm,
are framed, and how technology creates value in the real world. So I think in this era, systems thinking should not be reserved just for computer science students or something
mm,
which should be introduced late in the higher education. I think it should start much earlier, even in middle
correct,
school. And students should begin learning how people, processes, data, and technology, all of them can come together to solve some real problems.
correct.
So, just to repeat my question, how do you think education system should also evolve to prepare that next generation of AI powered world?
So, our education systems are evolving, but unfortunately, some of them are like giant elephants, and it's really, really difficult to move them. For example, we haven't really questioned that why hasn't our degrees changed, from 3 to 4 years for almost about 2 decades now. Today, people want modular skills. If you may recall, Priya, or at least I can, when I was in class 10th and 12th, someone who was scoring, let's say, 75% to 80% was considered a brilliant student, that they have done so much. And there were only a handful of students who used to go or who used to touch 90% in their boards. And today those dynamics have changed. It seems everyone around is getting, scoring upwards of 75, 80%. Someone who's even scoring, among the high 80s are somewhat still considered a black sheep in the family, right? So needless to say, I mean, the focus on just the exam ready students is only producing unemployable graduates. There was a research by Aspiring Minds many years ago that said about 80% of the Indian engineers are considered unemployable by the workforce. So we feel that education has to become much more outcome led and much more connected to the real world. And much has been said about students don't just need knowledge, they need practical exposure. They need the ability to apply knowledge. I've seen that, earlier people, when they used to do their bachelor's degree, they would always take a pause, get some work experience, and then while working, when they start leading people, when they start leading projects, when they start working in the leadership capabilities, at that time they used to go for their MBAs to really become a pro. And today, that gap has absolutely shrank. In fact, many universities have been launching bachelor's plus MBA integrated degrees. And I think that's a sin because you really need to give the practical exposure, more industry exposure, and more problem solving skills to the students. And coming back to relate this on the AI part, a student can always know the theory of AI. But once they graduate, they will be made to work in a team. They don't really work as an individual contributor. So, can they present the solution? Can they manage timelines? Can they understand ethical risk? Can they really understand how to work in teams, how to be a part of a project? And I think that is what is missing. And this is where the right employability options will be created. So, the classrooms of the future should not only ask, what do you know? It should ask, what can you do with what you know? And we really need to move from exam ready students to execution ready professionals. And having said this, PMI is already leading this at the front. We have been working with some of the top universities, private universities in India, who are now integrating these practical skills, these professional certifications from PMI, such as PMP, CAPM, CPMAI, into their bachelor's and master's degree curriculum. So once a student graduates, they just don't have a degree, but a concrete skill set to show to the employer that yes, this is how they can demonstrate what they know.
Definitely, Amit. And I think it highlights a shift that many people are only beginning to recognize. And like you mentioned, I think for decades, education has largely focused on helping students memorize information and perform very well in the standardized assessments. Of course, that's changing and it has changed a lot. But in a world where AI can retrieve knowledge in seconds and even generate content, the real differentiators are becoming critical thinking or the kind of outcome that tools can produce and preparing students who can effectively use that tools, the ability to
Mm,
collaborate effectively with both people and intelligent systems. So all of these
mm,
skills are very important, and such hands-on training is important to include in the curriculum. And
mm.
I think, yeah, those skills will be more valuable than ever before.
Right.
Yeah. Great, Amit. So I think we have, kind of discussed a lot about the impact of AI in the workforce,
Mhm.
the role of educators or leadership, and what are certain things, we should keep in mind, or the skills
Mm.
that we need to focus on in terms of growing. Yet, I think machines have not reached there where, they can replicate every skill humans have.
Mm.
One last question for you is 10 years from now, what do you
Mm.
think will be the single most important human skill that no AI system can fully replace?
Hmm. So, if I had to pick one skill that AI will not fully replace, I would say judgment. AI may become faster, smarter, probably much better at writing emails than most of us. But judgment is different. And judgment is where you need when the data is incomplete. The deadline is tomorrow, the client is unhappy, the team is tired, and everyone is looking at you for a decision. At that time, AI can still give you options. It can give analysis. It can even give you a very confident answer, but it cannot take responsibility. It cannot say, I own this decision. So the ownership will remain human. So 10 years down the line, the most valuable professionals will not be those who simply use AI. They will be those who know when to trust AI, when to question it, and when to bring their own wisdom into the room. So, AI may become the smartest person in the room, but humans still need to be the wisest.
I completely agree with you, Amit. And yes, judgment is one of the most critical skills I think humans possess. And as machines take on more of the cognitive heavy lifting, the true measure of progress may lie not in what technology can do, but
Right.
in how we nurture and protect the human super skills that enrich and
Yeah.
empower us, even as they come under growing pressure.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Amit, for your interesting insights and helping us understand that it's important that, we value those human super skills, but alongside that, we also need to enhance them and ensure that, we stay at the center of progress with AI helping us deliver the outcomes that we need to in terms of our business goals. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the future isn't human or machine, it's human with machine, and the quality of that partnership will depend on how seriously we value, foster, and leverage the human mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Definitely. Thank you for your insights, Amit. It was lovely chatting with you.
Likewise, Priya, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around probably how you can develop your workforce in an AI-driven era and still have that human edge. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much.